Hello, Living Water. This is Tim and Lisa here. We wanted to talk today about marriages, but very specifically about arguments and fights within the context of your relationship with one another. All couples have fights and disagreements and arguments. It's not a question of are you going to have a fight or a disagreement. The question is how are you going to handle that? And so that's kind of what we wanted to address today. Just so you know, this is a really big topic, and we're only going to touch the surface of it today. But how you grew up has an impact on how you have an argument or a fight, and it has an impact in the way you handle it as with one another as well.
When I was growing up, my dad was always right, and so there was no point in arguing. Like, you would just get squashed down if you tried to. And so when Tim and I started dating and got engaged, I had to learn how to have a fight. I had to learn how to express this is what I felt, and had to learn that it was safe to do that, and he gave me a safe place to do that. So that was a learning process for me. It took intention to do that, and so some people, you guys may have to do that. You may have to intentionally learn to express this is how I feel, this is how what you did made me feel. Another thing from growing up, I feel like I had wounded areas, like I felt inadequate and stupid, and so like saying or doing the wrong thing could cause me to hear that. Like this one time when we had just moved to Colorado, I was driving, Tim was in the passenger seat, and he said, "You're gonna need to turn right here." And what I heard was, "You're stupid." And I went crazy on him. And he's like, What did I say? I just said turn right. But what I heard was, "You're stupid." And so there's those areas of sensitivity that we bring as baggage into the marriage, and so we need to find a way to work through those things so that they're not always like he can't say anything like turn right without me losing my mind.
And I grew up in a family where we're fighting because there were five of us kids. We fought every day. We would say mean things to each other, and then we'd calm down and everything would be fine. And so in many ways, fights never really got resolved. We just moved on from them. And so that caused us difficulties as well, because I was always wanting to be done and Lisa needed to finish, and it just irritated me. But there are many things that can contribute to a fight or cause that we need to kind of pay attention to. Unrealistic expectations about things in the house, and from your spouse especially. Misspoken words, words that are spoken that are just misunderstood. Unmet wants or desires or and even needs. These things contribute or can begin the fight. Tiredness, being exhausted from the end of the day. One thing can lead to just being able to snap and say something now rude and start a fight. Being hungry, being irritated at somebody outside of the house, somebody at work, somebody that cut you off on the highway, or somebody at the grocery store. Being irritated outside of the house can bring stuff in. Now with my irritation, Lisa can easily then set me off because I'm already previously irritated. And I might not even be irritated at her, but it can cause an argument or fight between us. And then there's the need to be right. We sometimes got a lot of pride and arrogance about needing to be right. And so if I always need to be right about things, then we're going to fight and argue, because she might be feeling the same way, or feeling like, you're not right. You're just as wrong as I am. Or sometimes you can see that somebody's wrong and they're not admitting it, and then they look kind of dumb. Being hurt by something or somebody, that can cause anger. But unless you grew up in a household where you were passively submitting, where you couldn't fight back, but you were just taught to just take it, most of us are going to have an argument or a fight. And we just need to know how to do it well in such a way that just doesn't destroy our relationship with one another.
And if you did grow up that way, then you need to learn how to be able to have a fight and to do it well. Also, I feel like knowing your spouse's vulnerable places, like that can give us ammunition in order to hurt them so that we can win. But really, like, we need to be gentle and careful with those vulnerable places, and be able to have a disagreement and talk about those things without aiming for those vulnerable places.
And in working with couples for many years, I discovered that many of us want to avoid conflict because we're afraid it's going to destroy relationships. But in reality, conflict that's handled well and resolved actually strengthens relationships. When Lisa and I have had a disagreement or an argument about something, and we are able to resolve it, it actually builds more trust between the two of us. Because now I'm confident that the next time that we have a disagreement or an argument, that we're going to be able to resolve it again. And so that's why I say relationships, conflict handled well can actually strengthen the relationship. So hold on to that, because that's a real positive that people kind of want to avoid because they're afraid it's going to destroy them instead. And then also, fights and arguments tend to focus on the other person. If her and I are having a disagreement, I'm not looking at me and what's going on inside of me. I'm looking at her and looking to say, okay, well, you said this and you did that, or you didn't do this, or, it's all about accusation. And that just lends itself to just a bigger fight, because now I'm just trying to attack, and that's attacking and not resolving it all. And we tend to bring up past hurts, we tend to bring up past problems, and it's all ammunition so that we can win the fight.
Proverbs 18:21 says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat its fruit." So I would encourage you to be careful with your words. Instead of accusations, say things like, "When you do blank, I feel blank," because that's just saying, this behavior causes me to feel this way, instead of like, "You're stupid and I can't believe you're so horrible that you would do this." Don't use words like always and never. Just be cautious with your words, that they aren't like a weapon in order to hurt the other person.
And in that passage, Proverbs 18, I love that passage, and I memorized it years ago, because death and life are in the tongue. Yes, our words can bring death to another person, but the truth is, my words can bring life to another person too. And I want to speak words of life to Lisa. I want to build her up. I want to strengthen her. I want to encourage her. The words that I say to her, even in the midst of an argument or disagreement, I don't want my words to just destroy her. I want to still strengthen her and build her up. And that's really important. That's an important piece for me.
I feel like, too, him building me up helps me feel safe, that I know we can have this fight, we can have this disagreement and work it through, and that he's on my side, that he cares about me.
And I got to say that having a fight by text or email is dumb. It's just dumb, okay? And the reason is because communication is only 20% the words that we use. There's no way to convey in a text or an email any kind of emotion or tone or gestures. 80% of communication are gestures. It's the tone of voice. It's eye movement, our facial expression. And you get none of that in a text or an email. So I would encourage you that if you catch yourself starting or to have an argument or a fight in a text or an email, stop it. Wait until you come together so you can actually talk, because so much misunderstanding happens because you don't get the rest of it. You don't get the rest of communication there, and it limits you. So I would encourage you to not do it that way, but to stop the argument until you guys can come together. And the other thing that I wanted to say is that if one of you wins the fight, you both have lost the fight. For us to win, we both have to win. And that means that I can't just win the fight. I'm a good arguer. I like to argue. And the truth is, I probably can out-argue Lisa anytime. And that's not a good thing, because I just leave her hurt and suffering. And that means we don't win as a couple. So my going into an argument or a fight, I have to look for ways for us to be able to win together. We both win if we can resolve it. And so we have to be able to look at that and decide that in most situations, neither one of us is right or neither one of us is wrong. And that's a bit of the problem, is because we go into it always thinking that we're right and the other person is wrong. And the reality is we are both right and we're both wrong. And that's the hardest thing for us to grasp. There's an old story about three blind men describing an elephant. And one of the blind men, he describes this long spindly thing with this brushy tip on the end, and he's describing the tail. And one of them he's get the side of the elephant and he's touching it, and he can't see this. All he feels is this really rough, strong, describes it as a wall. And the third guy gets the trunk, and it's strong, but it's very flexible and very gentle. And so the question is which of them is right? Well, the truth is they're all right. They're all wrong because none of them got the whole elephant, but they're all right because they all got pieces of it. So when we get into an argument and a fight, my job isn't to look at what she has said that is wrong. My job is to look at what she has said is where she's right, because I can spend so much of my time trying to figure out how to prove that she's wrong that I miss where she is right. And if she does the same with me, and we're both looking at, then that's where we come to an agreement, because we're agreeing on what's right about the discussion or the disagreement rather than what's wrong. And then we both win because now we're looking at the right pieces. And then the other piece that I want you to know in regards to especially my relationship with Lisa is that first of all, I know deep down in my heart, in my very being, in a place that cannot be touched by the enemy, I know that she loves me. I know that she wants the best for me, and I know that even though what she might have said might have hurt me, her intent was never to hurt me, because that's the kind of love she has for me. And because of that, it helps me to be able to change how I look at whatever it was that she might have done or might have said that might have hurt, because then I can look at it from a different perspective. Because if all I'm thinking is she's trying to hurt me, then I would just want to defend or attack. But if I'm looking at, okay, that hurt, but she wasn't intending to, that gives me two options. First of all, to look at what is it inside of me that is responding to something that she said. Or I can look at, what she said and, maybe I misunderstood it. Maybe what she said I didn't really get, or how she said it I misinterpreted. There's a whole lot of other things that go on that, because I'm now looking at it from a different perspective, allows me to be able to change how I'm going to respond to her.
Ephesians 4:26 says, "Be angry but do not sin. Don't let the sun go down on your wrath." And James 1:19 says, "Therefore, brothers, let everyone be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath." And sometimes you may need time away in order to process how you're feeling and to maybe figure out how you can express that to your spouse without ripping their head off. And so take some time away, but make sure that your spouse knows, I'm leaving in order to figure this out, instead of I'm leaving because I'm mad and this is the end of the marriage or whatever. They need to know that you're committed to working it through, and that you're not walking away from them. So maintain a balance. Like sometimes, yes, you may need time away, but do it with them knowing I'm still committed to the marriage.
Which is a really good idea, and I used to teach couples to actually take a time out so that they can go and process things and calm down a little bit so that they can actually talk things through. However, us guys tend to think, oh, well, now that I'm calmed down, I'm not angry anymore, it's over with. And that's just not true. An argument or a fight or disagreement is not done until we're both done with it. I can't be done with it if she's not, because that just starts things up again. It leaves her hurt and resentful. So if we take a time out to go calm down so that we can talk about it, then we have to set a time when we come back and finish it. Otherwise, now we have this unresolved conflict left between us that's now going to fester, And then next time we have an argument, that last argument is going to come into it as well. So guys, this is a place for you to really take note about this, because we can get over things real quick and easy, and our wives don't do so. They hold on to things, not because they're just holding on to it, but because they need to process it, and they need to talk it through, and they need to finish it, and we need to help them finish it. In the end, it's better to have. Is it better to have won the fight, or is it better to have resolved it with your spouse so that you can strengthen your marriage?